Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a spoil board for your CNC, including surfacing and mounting holes for hold downs, and design the whole thing in Fusion 360. Alright, so designing a spoil board in Fusion 360 is pretty straightforward and basic, and it's actually a great way to sort of teach yourself the basics of Fusion 360 and generating G-code to send through to Easel. Easel's the program that I'll be using. That is my CNC sender, and we'll get a little bit onto that a little bit later. So first thing you do is start with a blank page, a blank design. We're going to create a new sketch, click on the base here, and we're going to make a rectangle. Now I know my spoil board is 1250. If I press tab, it's going to change the axis, and I can put in 750 and press enter. Now we're going to finish that sketch, and we're going to extrude the sketch. Now the way that I have set up my spoil board is that I am actually going to be drilling holes through the spoil board into my baseboard, and then I can put threaded inserts into my baseboard, which will allow me to put bolts through the spoil board for the hold downs to hold down my pieces. So what I need to do here is I need to set the thickness of this piece to my baseboard plus my spoil board minus 1mm, and they are both 18mm MDF. So we're going to go 18 plus 17mm to take off that 1mm and press enter. So now that is pretty much our spoil board right there, and we want to generate the holes that we're going to use for the hold downs. So now we're going to make a new sketch, and we're going to click on the face of the spoil board. We'll come up to this top left corner here. We're going to select the rectangle, and we're going to go 100mm. Again, press tab by 100mm and press enter. Now we need to create a circle, and I know that my holes need to be 9.7mm wide for my threaded inserts, and press enter. Now we're going to quickly zoom in, and we're going to get this trim tool here. We'll just get rid of these lines here, and then click finish sketch. Now we want to extrude our hole down, so we're going to go minus 17mm for the spoil board, and then we need to go 13mm into the baseboard, so minus 13 again, and that's going to make the hole 30mm deep. Now we want to create a grid on this entire spoil board, so what we're going to do up here is we're going to click on rectangular pattern. We're going to change from faces to features and click on the hole, and then we're going to click on directions. We want to go in this direction here, and we will see the arrows going this way and this way. That is exactly what we want. And we're going to change distance type to spacing. Now we're going to change our distance to 100 and 100, and that's going to make sure that all our holes are 10cm apart, or 100mm. Now we're going to zoom out a little bit to get the whole spoil board, and we're just going to up these arrows until we fill the spoil board. I think I'll stop at 11, and then this way we're going to go, say 6. And what I might do is actually just adjust the distance a little bit, maybe 105mm. Now it looks about the same, and then 105, and that looks about evenly spaced all around. We click OK. So that is our spoil board designed with the grid pattern inserted, and that is it for the actual modeling phase. So now that we have our model, we can come up to the design here and change over to manufacture, and we need to create a new setup. Now with the setup, we need to, so two things we're going to be doing with the setup is we're going to be setting where our CNC starts from. Now for me, I start at this bottom right corner every single time, because my control box is in this bottom right corner of my CNC. So I connect the Z probe here, and I always do it to this bottom right corner. Now in saying that, I need to change my axis, and I want my X axis to be on this line here, and change my box point back to this corner, because my CNC, this is the orientation of my CNC. My Y axis, the long one, is on this axis here, and the X is this way. You'll see this once I actually go into the shop and show you how to flatten the board and everything later on. So now that we have that, we need to come over to stock, and we want to change to fixed size box. Width is 750 and 1250, that's correct. And we want to change our height down to 18 plus 18 mil and press OK. So essentially we're telling at the machine that we want the stock to be 35 millimeters tall, but it is currently 36 millimeters tall. So now we want to come up to 2D and click on face, and we're going to pick our tool. Now my tool of choice for flattening or surfacing is a 22 millimeter surfacing bit. Click select, and then we're going to come over to geometry. We want to click on the outer line here, the outside shape. Come over to heights. Heights for me, I don't really touch this too much because usually if I have sort of stock that I want to leave, I've usually made that into the model. But this is where you would do that for other things that are not really necessary here. Now passes, we want to change our step over. So 22 millimeters, 20.9 is pretty good. They usually say 90 to 95% is what you want for the width of your bit to be your step over. Multiple depth isn't necessary because we are only taking off 1 millimeter. But if you were to say take off 5 millimeters, this is where you would change multiple depths to how much millimeters. So it would take 5 passes over the entire thing rather than taking 1. But that's not necessary because we only take off 1 mil. Linking isn't necessary for us here right now. So now if we click OK, this is going to generate a toolpath. And now we can click up here on simulate, and we can actually press play and watch the tool go to work. You can speed it up a little bit here, and you'll see that it is actually trimming 1 millimeter off the top. Speed it up. Now I do suggest that every time you generate a toolpath that you simulate it, just to make sure that there is no errors. See on this bottom here there is this green bar. If there was any errors in the issue, any errors or issues with the actual toolpath, there would be red spots. Okay, so now we have that. Now one thing to note here is that the machine doesn't actually know how thick your board is or your piece is that you're actually trying to trim. All it knows is that you have set the Z axis to the top of it. So now that you have this face here, that is it. That is your 1 millimeter face off the top forever. You set your Z probe after you've already taken off 1 millimeter. It assumes that you have a 36 millimeter piece there again, and it will keep taking off that 1 millimeter as long as you keep resetting your Z distance. As you'll see later on, we actually do flatten our surface twice, and we use the same face for that. So now that we have our face and our surfacing, actually with the face we need to actually change our feed rate. Now I know for me that I could set it to 22,000, I believe. I'm going to just set it to 15,000. It doesn't really matter that much. If I go machine time 3 minutes, I could even slow that down a little bit if I want to. If you just double click on the little picture here, that's how you make changes here. I might actually change it down to 10,000 and click OK. And even still our machine time is 4.5 minutes. That's not bad. Okay, so now we're going to go 2D and we're going to go bore. Change our tool over to the 6 millimeter. Click select. Cutting feed rate is set to 1000, and I'm actually going to change that to 3000. It doesn't really matter because you're boring, so it's just how fast it's going to move between holes really. Selection mode. Okay, so now we need to select every single hole. Okay, now we have all the holes selected, we can come across to our passes. And we just want to make sure the pitch is 1 millimeter. The pitch is how deep it's going to go at a time going down in a spiral. So essentially it's going to take down 1 millimeter off per time going down in a spiral. And linking is no concern to us right now. Now if I zoom in here and we can go to simulate, slow it down just a little bit. You can see what I mean, how it goes down in a spiral sort of fashion, and it's going 1mm at a time. I'll speed that up again just to make sure that everything is working fine. Let that simulation finish, and then we can close that. Okay, now we have our two tool paths completely made. We need to post-process, and post-process is how we generate our G-code or our path for the CNC machine to know what to do. So we're going to right click here, and we're going to go post-process, and then we're going to make sure everything is correct here. You'll see it says my cloud post. This is how I have set it up with Easel. If you go to the Easel program, it has a step-by-step guide on how to set this up for Fusion 360. It's pretty straightforward. So we're going to click post. It's going to bring up this dialog box here, and this is where we're going to rename this to spoil board face and click save. That's going to pop this little pop-up. Just close that out, you don't need that. And then we're going to do the same for bore, post process, click post. We can rename this spoil board bore, save. We can close that. And we can now get rid of this. Now we can open up Easel, log into Easel, and then we're going to go new project, and we're going to go project, import G-code, click on browse, and then we're going to click on spoil board face and click open. Now we can go here and click on the plus, and we can go project, import G-code, browse, and then spoil board bore. Now once you get to your CNC, now I design everything on my laptop, bring it into Easel, and then I close out of Easel, and I have another computer that runs my CNC. When I open up Easel, everything's already saved in there, ready to go. You want to make sure that you have clicked on the spoil board first, on the face, because if you do the bore first, it's not going to be flat before it begins. So let's head over to the CNC, and I'll give you a quick walkthrough on what we are doing there. Alright, now that we're over at our CNC, we essentially have three things to do. We're going to surface our board, and we're going to do that by putting in our surfacing bit and then running the face program. And now the surfacing is complete, we can put in our 6mm bit and run the bore program. Now you may notice here that there is a little bit of smoke, and that is because I didn't really think about it at the time, but the bit that I'm using is only got a cutting depth of 22mm and not 30mm. So when it gets below that 22mm, the bit that doesn't have any cutting face on it is actually rubbing on the edge of the MDF, and that is what is causing the smoke. This is actually something that you really should not do, and I didn't pick up on it at the time. If I did, I would have stopped and ordered a 30mm bit, which is what I have done for the future. Once the boring process has completed, we can remove the spoil board and then go through the process of installing all of the threaded inserts into the baseboard. Now that the threaded inserts are all installed, we can put the spoil board back in place, and then we're going to put our surfacing bit back into our CNC and run the surfacing program again. Now, as I stated in the design, we're just using the same facing program that we used before, and with the Z probe it just assumes that we're using a 36mm piece of stock. Alright, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, maybe hit that like rating, and let me know in the comments if I have helped you out at all. You can also follow me on social media on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll have links to those down below. I also have a link down in the description for my podcast, and also have a link down there for the place where I get all my music for my videos. If you use the link in my description, you get 1 month of premium for free, and I'll see you next time.